You're watching No Time to Dine, the show where I take ultra fast recipes and I recreate them to see how long they actually take to make. We are making a recipe from Joshua Wiseman out of his book Texture Over Taste. It's Carbonara Tteokbokki. Truthfully, I just wanted carbonara, but I also wanted tteokbokki. So we're gonna make them both. And he's a wacky guy, so he put them together, and that might be cultural appropriation on both fronts. I think he personally owes me reparations. But maybe if the recipe comes out nice, I'll forgive him. I'll let it pass this time. I'll let it slide. So we're gonna have a timer going for 29 minutes, and if I can't make it in 29 minutes, I'm just gonna have to eat whatever is ready at that time. As you know, I definitely do that. So with all that said, the first thing on the agenda today is to get our tteokbokki soaking in some warm water, just like the Mormons soak with their wives. It's technically fine. This is a pre-soak that just loosens them up a bit, and then we'll boil it after. But for now, we're gonna have these soaking in the background. Just like the Mormons do with their wives. Yeah. That's what I was getting at. So now that the tteokbokki is soaking, I'm just gonna set it off to the side. Start slicing into my guanciale. Divide these up into slightly larger pieces, 1/2-inch pieces. Pretty big, honestly. But that's what the recipe calls for, so that's what we're gonna do. Now that I have everything into roughly 1/2-inch pieces, I'm gonna take this and move it aside and get started on separating my egg yolks and egg whites. So we're just gonna need the yolks for this recipe. I'm just gonna start cracking my eggs and get these separated nicely, and then we're gonna mix the yolks with the cheese to get our carbonara sauce most of the way there. I'm just gonna scoop this out with my hands because I ain't no soft hands liberal sissy. And I could just get in there because I'm manly and shit. Sorry. Now that my guanciale is sliced and my eggs have been separated, we're looking at 18 minutes on the clock. So the only thing left is to grate some cheese to mix with the egg yolks. We're looking at 18 minutes right now. It's coming down to the wire. I'm actually a little bit nervous because these tteokbokkis have to boil for like 5 minutes, and then everything has to emulsify in the pan. I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. So I've been grating for 3 minutes now. We're almost looking at the finish line. I feel like I don't know. I swear I do my best to make the time frame. I even prepare some things ahead of time. Like I have everything prepped on the counter, which most people probably wouldn't do, right? They would just have it in the fridge or scattered in the cupboard or wherever. And yet it's still coming down to the wire. We're looking at 15 minutes now, and I'm gonna have to pull out my tteokbokki because we are done soaking. The fun is over. I'm gonna have to put them to boil in the water for 5 minutes. Can I mix the eggs and cheese and everything in between in that time? Can I render the guanciale in that time? Find out next time. Literally in the same video. I've grated the cheese in its entirety. I'm looking at 13 minutes now. I'm gonna drain these tteokbokkis. Got some water simmering in the background, so those will go in no time at all. Now I'm just gonna mix the eggs and cheese together. I'm gonna start with a little at a time, then mix the rest in there. Switching over to a spatula to better incorporate this cheese. And I'm gonna save a little for drizzling after the fact. And if you're thinking, wow, scrub garbanzo, that is so much cheese, you'd be right. Wow, slim guacamole, doesn't seem like you have enough moisture in that bowl, you'd be right. I'm now looking at 10 minutes and I only have 5 minutes to render down the guanciale and boil the tteokbokki. I don't know if I'm gonna make it in time, but best believe that I'm gonna try. I hope that I don't have to consume a raw egg cheese mixture, but that's how it goes, that's how I'll do it. So I've now created this nice homogeneous ball of Play-Doh, and the only thing left is to start rendering my schmeat in the background. The egg and cheese mixture is now mostly homogeneous. I'm going to move on to slicing my garlic thinly and then get the tteokbokki into the boiling water and the guanciale rendering in the background. And we might just make it in time, but we might not. We're looking at about 9 minutes now. And if you've seen me for a while, if you've watched my videos before, you know that slicing garlic might just be the bane of my existence. It takes me the longest. I always fail to do it properly. It's just these skins, they're so sticky and everywhere and flaky and gross, and it's just... My fingers stink like garlic, and they last like that for a long time. This is my least favorite part about cooking. But with all that said, there is no time to dine. I got my meat ready to go. I'm gonna put that in the pan to start rendering it out. And I'll also get the tteokbokki in the simmering water. The guanciale and tteokbokki have been going for 5 minutes now. I'm going to strain the tteokbokki and get the guanciale mixed in with some garlic that I have here that we sliced earlier. And then the guanciale goes for another 3 minutes. And we should be about there. It smells great. We got 53 seconds left on the clock. It's going fine. It's going just fine. Everything's raw, nothing's cooked, but it's fine. I've let it go for an additional 5 minutes just because my guanciale was still looking pretty flaccid, and nobody really likes it when it's flaccid. So I'm gonna add some of this water from the tteokbokki. I'm gonna get that into the pan to deglaze it. This water is gonna help deglaze it and also add some starch. All right, turn that back on. Oh, and they're still so hot. So hot, hot, hot. Like the sun in the Bahamas. The tteokbokki and the guanciale have gotten to know each other a little bit, so I'm now gonna add the egg and cheese mixture into this assortment. And it's looking dummy thick, so I don't know how this is gonna melt, but I do have a little bit of faith in it. And in the end, my dish looks vaguely similar to his, though mine might be a bit thicker, a bit wetter, but you know what? That's exactly how I like it. So without further ado, we're gonna get the tasting bandana on for this episode and rate this dish out of some Chef John's. Bit coagulated because it's been sitting for a minute because I've been taking thumbnail pics, but it should still be delicious. It might be because I'm starving, it might be because it's actually pretty good, but I did get a third of the way through here before I could muster up my opinion on this dish. And I gotta say, I enjoyed it. But it's not exactly like, what did you expect? It is Carbonara Tteokbokki, like it's the same thing, but like together. I do think Babish's recipe for carbonara that I made a couple years ago was a bit better just because the texture was the sauce was a bit thinner in a sense that it like blended well with the pasta. Whereas this, the sauce is creamier and I think that lends itself well to the tteokbokki, which I guess in this case is ideal. But still, I'm gonna rate this very highly. I'm thinking like 23 Chef John's out of 27. It's a good dish, but it is ultimately carbonara. Like that's a good time either way, no matter how you spin it. I like the texture, I like the flavor. Good recipe, didn't take 30 minutes though, it didn't take 29 minutes. I spent about 45 minutes pulling this all together from start to finish. But with all that said, I'm probably gonna finish this off screen, which is tough because it's like so opulent and just, it's a lot. It's like butter and cheese for days and bacon, and guanciale is like pray for my arteries. Oh, thank you my patrons because they give me money and I really appreciate that. Shout out to She Shells, shout out to Max Ginn, and shout out to everybody on the fridge. If you too would like to get on the fridge or just support the show in general, the link to the Patreon is in the pinned comment below. Anyway.